just wanted to talk about some of my favorite oils. These are made by Holbein, however you want to pronounce it. They're water-soluble oils, and I absolutely love them. You can thin them with water, and you can also wash up your brushes with water and just regular dish detergent. Sometimes if I've had a little bit of a issue with a buildup up in here in the top of the brush there, I have taken out a paint thinner, or just mainly spirits is usually what I've used in the past. Something that can just thin the paint, and then you can just kind of scrub it out of there by rubbing it into the palm of your hand. So that's those. Another nice beginner paint that you could use is the Artisan Windsor and Newton. Those are a great starter paint. You can pick up these water mixable oil color at Michael's or most craft stores, and most art shops will supply this. This is probably one of the more popular brands. So it's made by Windsor and Newton. They also carry one that says Artisan Oil Color. You will need to have all the regular things that you need for thinning your oils and cleaning if you go that direction, but I'm just going to talk today about water mixable oil color. These are from my little starter kit, and I love the size of these. So it's Duo Aqua Oil. It's 15 ml, and it's a nice little starter pack. You might think that this isn't very much paint, but oil paint actually goes quite a ways because it has so much pigment in it. Another awesome brand that I love is Cobra, and maybe you can share some that you've used in the past, but Cobra is fantastic. I think it's just kind of a step up from that Artisan Windsor and Newton oil, and this as well is water mixable oil. Not too stinky at all. I don't have any problems with this one. I do have a problem. I'm sensitive to oils, and the only one that really bothers me is the Windsor and Newton white. So I stopped buying the titanium white. For some reason, there's just something in that one that just kind of bothers my nose. But yes, I love the Cobra. I'm going to do a demo. We're going to start out with some chalk, and I often use chalk to sort of plan out what I'm going to do in my painting. And so I'm going to just show, let's just try and do maybe some northern lights, and they often are kind of the shape of a funnel cloud. Just gonna grab a fan brush, and I'm gonna dip into some of that Cobra titanium white. My background has already been gessoed, and so it's just to seal the board. The board originally is just a masonite board, and those are good for little projects. If something actually turns out and you want to frame it, these usually come in standard sizes, 8x10, 11x14, on, and they will fit standard size frames. So I've gessoed, I've put on a really dark green, and I've had this board for quite a while. I did this project a couple of years ago. We did a fun little Bob Ross party and wore wigs and stuff like that. So I've got the white, the titanium white on there. I'm just going to stipple it in. And what would be kind of cool is if this background was actually a Prussian blue, and so that's that one. You can do some wicked northern lights with titanium white over top of Prussian blue, or even ultramarine deep would be a nice background. So you'd, gesso, you would paint the background, let it dry a couple days. Just gonna stipple in some more white here. I often end up back at using plastic disposable plates because I have gone through so many palettes, especially with acrylics. I do acrylics as well, and I end up not cleaning them right away, and then the paint ends up all hard and crusty on there, and then you have to like freeze it or bang it off. And I just like disposable plates. I will use them until they are completely covered, even use both sides of the plate. I usually, when I use a palette knife, I use the outer side of the plate. Now I'm going to dip in just a tiny bit of green and a tiny bit of yellow. That's a lemon yellow and sort of a lime green. And I'm just adding those here and there. And I'm also going to dip into the ultramarine blue. I've got some of that on my little palette as well. My background, again, is a really deep, dark green. I don't think it was a phthalo green I put on there. It was probably more of a sap green. Pretty sure that's what it was. The thing that happens when you go over sap green with white is you often end up with sort of a lime green, which is kind of cool when you're doing dark trees. So I'm going to dip into a little bit of that ultramarine blue, and I'm going to drag across, just kind of fluff that back and forth. But I want the tops to sort of go wider, like you would see, let's say like a tunnel, little tube. Maybe you might compare it to a tornado funnel cloud. Don't want to see those. We often get, well, not super often, but up north where I am, we get northern lights in the winter time especially, and you often will get sort of that lime green color. So let's sort of push that up, so wider at the top, and then you're going to sort of narrow out at the bottom. These ladies dance around in the sky and look absolutely amazing. It's a treat when you drive up north. We've driven up by Slave Lake and had the northern lights for well over an hour as we were driving around the lake one time. It was February, middle of winter, and they were just dancing around. It was amazing. Sometimes we get them in the summertime. You can go out to Elk Island. Just gonna scooch those. Elk Island National Park in Canada, in Alberta. And you can go out there in the summertime, and you can get warnings from an app that will tell you when the aurora is going to be. The aurora watch. Usually you don't get a lot of notice. I'm just going across, and then what I want to do is sort of fluff it this way a little bit. Just want to kind of get rid of those brush marks and fluff it out. Just gonna hit the palette with a little more of the ultramarine blue. Sometimes you get some really nice purples and stuff in there, pinks, almost all the colors of the rainbow on a good day, good night. I love how that kind of defines the space between those two there. Might want to pop some yellow back in there. I do see the greens quite a bit. That's quite popular around here. And up in the northern parts of Sweden and Norway, of course. Just grab a little more of that blue. Sort of pop it in between there. And this background almost looks like it's black, but if you look at it in a really good light, you can see that pop of green. Kind of dragging it along, bring some of that color down here. And I could work on this for hours, of course, but I'm not going to. I'll spare you that. And kind of get an idea, even darker up in this corner, but just that pop of blue. You could throw in a little tiny bit of pink in there and get a really beautiful purple. Now I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to go to something like this 1-inch brush. This isn't hog bristles, but it's a nice oil brush. It's dry. I'm gonna dry brush this. So I'm just gonna put this fan brush to the side. And what you can do is sort of, instead of swishing more paint around, all I'm doing is I'm just kind of fluffing it up. A nice brush is sort of a mop brush, or it sort of looks like if you're familiar with makeup, your blush brush for doing makeup. That's a nice brush, especially for acrylics, to go in when it's dry and just kind of fluff it out. Now, if I wanted to thin this paint, I could take a spritz, and I could use a micro spritz or a spritz bottle, spray it on your palette, and you could sort of thin the paint if you wanted to. And so I've sort of thinned that ultramarine blue, and I'm just going to brush in a little more over there. And I'm going to dry off whatever's on my brush and sort of bring it down even more. So I could throw in some purple, I could add in some more lime green, maybe even a little bit of pink, and just make these look amazing. But this is just a sample board, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I could show you the difference between the green, the sap green background, and this is the Prussian blue background. And you just get a nice pop of green in there when you put in some yellow over top, or even a lime green. And I like this sky, probably works a lot better for a background for the northern lights. But yeah, when you go in with a palette knife, of course, you could add a little bit of blue or purple to your white and just kind of form in some mountains or snow on top of hills, or whatever you're going for your subject. But what's handy is that chalk, or just a pastel that doesn't have oil in it. This is just a pastel, there's no oil. And what happens with this is, you of course saw earlier that you can draw whatever you want, and it just kind of absorbs into the paint. So that's handy. One of the things you can do when you go to clean up your brushes, just pull up my paper towel here just so you don't end up with a bunch of muddy water, or maybe you can still use spirits with this stuff, just like you would with oils, something that isn't stinky. So get a lot of that out of your brush, and then you'd go in and you could rub it into a little jar with some soap, just pure soap, and scrub that out, and then you could go in and rinse it with water. And so the majority of it would be going on to the paper towel. Now when you dispose of the paper towel, you need to wet the paper towel with water until you have it out of your house. Same thing with oils too, just because you don't want anything to combust on you. But yeah, if you get most of that color off onto the paper towel, then you'll save that going into your water mostly. I love these water mixable oils. These little starters, little 15 mils, are great for just giving them a try. You can get smaller sets, of course, with just maybe 8 or 10 or 12 colors, but I happen to just find that I love this brand. Actually, it's quite smooth. I find the Windsor and Newton is a little more stiff, which is fine, but you have to put a lot more elbow into that and a little more muscle. But these are nice. They're kind of a good starter oil. The Windsor and Newton is probably more affordable, and there's also, I believe Pabio, however you pronounce it, they make a good one as well. They've got nice little sample packs that you can try. Anyways, I hope that you will give these oils a chance. Give them a try. I know for years I was scared to try oils in particular just because of all the cleanup, and it does take longer to just kind of push them into a canvas. But yeah, those are a great starter with that kind of paint. I do mix them with oils and sometimes even mix it with beeswax. You can mix your water soluble or water mixable oils with regular oil, but you do have to have the spirits to clean up your brushes, and same with if you're doing like a cold wax or adding in some of those mediums to thin your paints. I don't often use very many mediums. I like to go in thin. Of course, you've heard the phrase thick over thin, fat over lean. So you go in with a thin paint, lean, and then go on the next layer thicker. That helps